Actually, kind of following along those same lines, have you all either dealt with or are you thinking about how you balance the fact that personal accounts are now somewhat tied to the Statesman, right? Obviously, at Rob Quigg is listed up on the Statesman under the list of Twitterers, as well as powering the Statesman. And being a news organization, and the expectation being that you are kind of standing above the fray, you're letting us know what happens. Have you really had to deal with the fact that people may start following Rob Quigg and taking your personal tweets as at least somewhat related to the Statesman? And if so, how are you trying to deal with it, or are you just kind of hands off?
Absolutely. We do. We're all aware that we're kind of Statesman employees 24/7, and you can't do something that I might be able to do if I work for a different company. There's an awareness there that you just have to have. I think everybody here would say that you can't just start. I mean, if you're trying to be a mainstream media, non-biased reporter, you can't start talking about your favorite politicians or politicians you can't stand or anything like that. So there are limitations to how we have to act and how we look. My account, I mean, if you're following me, it's because you don't mind pictures of my kid playing t-ball and stuff like that. So it's not the Statesman account, which I run the Statesman account, which is completely different. But I still know that I'm an employee and treated as such.
And this has come up before. I think each reporter who is also a tweeter that has a Twitter account tied to their news organization has to kind of find their own sweet spot of where they're comfortable, how personal they want to go. You know, I'm pretty transparent, so I pretty much tweet about anything, except for politics. And then, retweets should not be seen as endorsements. I'll often retweet without any comment, just because it happens to be something on my subject matter, but I think it varies. I mean, some people are more private people and will choose to stay pretty close to just whatever the news is. I want to engage my friends on Twitter, and so, I'll tweet about more personal topics. So it's just, you find your own sweet spot, the place where you're comfortable.
You heard about what ESPN did recently, I guess, right? That basically ESPN said if you are an ESPN on-air personality, you are not to break news on your personal Twitter account. Basically, that belongs to us at ESPN, and we want our ESPN accounts to be breaking news. And we don't do that at our place. If a reporter's working on a story, or if you're at a game, if you're a sports person, you can break news on your account. But we want you to make sure that the Statesman umbrella account knows about it, so we can retweet it out that way. And everybody wins there. The reporter gets the credit and gets it on their site, and Statesman gets it.
I think we pretty much do the same thing at KI. We kind of know what our reporters are tweeting, but at the same time, we've had a couple of problems where someone has complained about what a reporter said, and it came back. And it kind of also depends on, I guess, personal sensitivity. Some people are more. I mean, some people will be upset with no matter what you say. And one of our reporters got in trouble for saying their live truck hit a deer, and and they said someone thought that was cruelty to animals, and so but it was stuff that but I had to have a talk with our news director and say, this stuff happens, and this is real life, and people want to still see, and if one person is slightly offended versus stopping this person from Twittering at all, we want to still encourage them, and they're not really crossing the line.
That's all the question over to you guys.
Yes. So I had a question about kind of social media and story development. So if you're a social media marketer or PR, you kind of have this two-way exchange of communication with your customer in terms of developing your product. You guys' product is news. How are you using your exchange with your customers to change your product?
I think in the most dominant way we've seen is crowdsourcing. So, KXAN, for instance, will be as basic as, do you have any story ideas today? Anything, just send something our way. But I might be doing a story on Austin Energy and am looking for a homeowner who recently installed solar panels. So I can easily go on Twitter and say, do you know somebody who recently installed solar panels on their home, and get a bunch of responses. So that it's so helpful that way, because it's that direct, organic communication that, I'm such an evangelist for. But then also throughout the story process, there's this whole movement in journalism right now about context, how stories shouldn't be just this linear model where you just put a story out and that's it. Because now that we can report in real time, they should be kind of living, breathing organisms where when I have a bit of information, I'll put it as a blog post and, report it throughout the day and then have that one final story whenever it's complete. And so in that sense, Twitter and other forms of social media can be very useful because you're just kind of, you're sharing your reporting journey with the people that are interested or reading your stories.
One of the things I saw in sports covering football games, we had a football game, you're up in the press box, you're not experiencing the game the same way somebody at home is, because we're not really watching the TV broadcast, using it for replays, you can't hear it. So TV may say something, and we may miss something. Fans may be going crazy over a holding call that we didn't see through our binoculars and didn't know it was a big deal. And you see it coming in from the tweets, what the hell happened here? We'd see it with the live, I did a post-game live chat, and I get all these questions sometimes about particular, so-and-so okay, after that ankle injury. We better check on so-and-so. Completely miss that. So you kind of get tips that way, and you just sort of broaden your reporting scope. People just see things that you don't see.
And I've gotten a lot of news tips on the Statesman account. People direct messaging the account. That's why I follow everybody back mainly is to get direct messaging capability, and people feel comfortable sending tips that way. But I get usually it's things like why are there 4 fire trucks around so-and-so building, or why is there a bunch of cops down at my bank branch, that kind of thing. And I turn to Dave Doolittle back there, who's our internet editor now, and send him little IMs throughout the day saying, just found all this on Twitter, and he's monitoring Twitter as well, but I'm kind of on there all the time. And so then we check on them, and they pan out, quite often. I probably get, for a while there anyway, I was doing, 3 news tips a week that turned into either blog posts or stories. It's just and then when there's a big news event, like big being like we get rain here in Austin or something like that, I'll get on the Austin weather Twitter account and ask people for pictures of raindrops, and I get tons. Brian sends me videos.
Hailstorms.
And so, it's hail, which you're not used to probably either. And just, it's a good way to get a new way of reporting. A lot of that stuff makes it into the print story eventually too, either as just kind of reader reports or photos, that kind of thing.
I had a question going back to earlier, you were talking about comments. I was very impressed with the comments functionality of the Statesman site where you can repost your comment on Twitter, repost your comment on Facebook. Do you see a lot of traffic come from that? Do you care as like percentage? What percentage would you say of traffic comes from Facebook, Twitter, and other social media sites as opposed to people just having Statesman as their homepage?
Wow. Well, the comments function is the comments have been around for more than a year now, about a year and 4 months, somewhere in there. But the ability to post your comment with a link to the story on Twitter and Facebook is brand new. We actually got that up and running 4 days ago, something like that. So I did notice yesterday as I was monitoring the Statesman Twitter account, we have a certain way that when people do post on Twitter that I could tell it came from our comments. And there were several that were popping up yesterday, so people are using it. As far as the amount of traffic coming into the Statesman as opposed to the homepage, it's not a huge number. I mean, it's good, and it's hard to get your hands on because we use Site Catalyst, and the way it reads is from URLs, referring URLs to be able to tell what's a referring domain. And since a lot of these are coming through TweetDeck or Seismic or things like that, there's no referring URL, so it doesn't really know how to read those. So the way I've been counting up my Bitly clicks, which are not that accurate because other people are tweeting our stuff without Bitly, and so it's hard to really put our finger on it, but it's growing. It's doing pretty well.
I hope that functionality helps to clean up the dark place that is the comments a lot of time. Because you have some kind, anything, you just pick the topic. If it's got anything at all to do with race, just head straight over the cliff real fast.
And that was
Immigration or
and so I'm hopeful that more people will post to their Facebook account and hopefully
not
be.
comment.
Well, no, and if they're fessing up to their friends of what they said on the Statesman account, maybe they'll be a little nicer about it.